Um, Today's daf is daf Chav Daled. We'll start again from the Mishnah revised we did yesterday. The Mishnah is on the Chav Gimel. Bava Kama to get outside. Big Gemara. Somebody took away the Bava Kama. We'll just revise the Mishnah Chav Gimel on the base on the bottom of the page, and we're going to see today how Shas is so interlinked and how Halacha is so interlinked. Because some of you said that Bava Kama is a totally different mindset than what we learned before in Nashim, and especially what we learned in Mayid, because this is all logic. We're going to show you today how we learn from Bava Kama laws regarding Mayid and regarding everyday life, which is fascinating. But it's not the Gemara, it's the Rishonim based on the Gemara. So the Mishnah says, Eiz Tam Beis Amud. We all know what a tam is and what a muad is, but when do you become a muad? How do you make a transition from a tam to a muad? And is it possible to revert back to a tam? We're revising the Mishnah again from yesterday's Mishnah. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, it has to be 3 separate days. In other words, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if it happened 3 times in one day, we will say the animal is an aberration, if the animal is in a frenzy. That doesn't in any way reflect on the status of the animal. It's only 3 different days that determines that the animal is an habitual gorer, and you, the Balabal, should be careful. And tam, how do you revert back to becoming a tam? If 3 events, 3 different opportunities the animal had to gore, and it didn't, that proves to us that it became docile again. These words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rameir says, Muid shehi'idu by shloisha pamim, 3 times, even in one day, you're already a muid, according to Rameir. And in 3 different days, most Rishonim will hold. Of course, Rameir says you're muid. In fact, that's how it seems in the Gemara. Even though the Bes Yosef in Hilchos Orach Chaim, in Hilchos davening, wants to learn that according to Rameir, the other way around, that dafke, if it happens 3 times in one day, it tells us the animal is a gorer. If it happened 3 different times, maybe each time it just happened. It was a happenstance. It doesn't prove anything. No, Meir argues actually under 3 different days, according to Bes Yosef, in one of the Rishonim Ben Pettit. But generally speaking, we learn a Meir holds both, either 3 days or the same day. In fact, the same day is stronger. And tam, how do you revert back to tam? If the animal is so docile, so domesticated, that a kid can play with it and the animal doesn't go goring. Now, who doesn't, and it seems even once, doesn't have to be 3 times, even once that happened, the animal allows kids to play with it, that means the animal has been tamed. Who didn't the animal gore? According to some Rishonim, the animal did not gore another animal. The fact that the animal did not gore the children proves nothing, because Taisha says, because children, they have a malach. People have a malach. We had in the beginning of the Bava Kama here, I know that in Shabbos, people have a malach. The malach protected them. That doesn't prove the animal has been domesticated. On the other hand, if the animal doesn't go another animal while kids are playing with it, because now the animal is a little bit agitated, then proves the animal is domesticated. Others say no, that the animal doesn't gore these children. That is sufficient proof the animal has been domesticated. Okay, simple Gemara. Second one, my time with Rabbi Yehuda. What's a large Rabbi Yehuda that 3 times in one day doesn't prove you're a mu'ah? It has to be 3 separate occasions. It says in the pasuk that if this animal became a gorer mitmoil from yesterday, I'm just calling the pasuk shulshaim from the day before, the lo yishmarenu, and you're not guarding it properly, the bailam not properly, then you have to pay and so on. So this is what Abaye dashens. Tomorrow is chad, one day, once occasion. Mitmoil, an extra man means it already happened on 2 occasions today. And shulshaim happened on a 3rd occasion plus. And then still the lo yishmarenu, you still didn't protect it. Baal of us and the and now it comes to a 4th time, you got to pay. So you learn from this pasuk. And when do you become a muad? The 4th time. So for the 3rd time, you still pay half. Rava says, now there's a big machlek to show him how to understand Rava, but Rava says, Tomoil is chad. I don't believe that's 2 occasions. Tomoil was the same thing. Yesterday, that's once. Shil Shoim, the day before that is today. That's happened twice. Then the pasuk said, V'lo yishmerenu, and you didn't guard it properly. Ha'idna, now the 3rd time chayiv. You hear how Rashi learns Rava? That Rava is not just giving a different pshat here. Rava is telling you halachically, you become a mu'ad the 3rd time, and for the 3rd time you pay the full nezik already. Taisa dismisses that out of hand, and he says no, because it says in the pasuk, and you didn't watch it afterwards. In other words, you had to first establish that it's a mu'ad, which is 3 times, and then the next time you'll be, responsible. The fourth time, not another Abai, only arguing where you learned it from. Okay. And what do you call it? Yeah. And then Tesa brings an opinion that there is a machlekes Abai and Rava, if you learn my way, and that is the fourth time. Can that happen on the third day, or that has to be on the fourth day? It could be on the third day. Wait, the Rava learns you didn't watch it. That's it. According to Abai, maybe each one's another day. So when you didn't watch it, they no. But when do you pay full nezik? The fourth time on a different day. But if it happened the fourth time on the same day that he established that he's a mood, the third time you don't pay full price. Am I saying in Rava holds no? That would be machlekes. Anyway, let's continue the Gemara. Let's say Gemara. My time, what's Rameir's logic? 3 times in one day you become more. Time you learn. But Rameir said, on the contrary, 3 different days. You tell me, I'm a mu'id. Surely, if you brought it together on the same day, surely you're mu'id. That's his logic. Obviously, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't agree. Rabbi Yehuda says if you did it in the same day, it's an aberration. After 3 different opportunities, then we say, this is a mu'id. So they said to him, what are you talking about? Zava Tichir. Said to him, I'll prove to you from a Zava that what? By a Zava, a male and a female are very different. If there's an emission, by a female, it has to be 3 different days that she spotted. Then we say, you established that you're a Zava, now you have to have 7 clean days. Mashain came when it comes to a Zava, male, 3 times in the same day, you become you establish that you are a Zava, that you are Tameh. And you need all the clean days and so on. But the pasuk says by a zava techiach sherich to by a zava, by a woman. So this is what we're answering back to Meir. Let's look at a woman. By a woman, if she saw 3 times, spotted 3 times in one day, she's not become a zava. She just has to wait one day. Yom keneged yom shemeres yom yom, and she's tired. Zava techiach sherich to Meir. But if she saw 3 times in one day, she's tired. So we see that your logic is not right. According to you, your logic is that 3 different days you're tummy. Surely she should be tummy. She saw 3 times in the same day. So he said back to me, he said, what are you talking about? What are you introducing this whole idea? How do you by male? It says in the pasuk v'zois. This is how the tumah should be. It's exedus hakasif, and the pasuk says there v'zois. This is how it should be by a male, and there it says 3 times the word zav in that pasuk. So we say 3 times on the same day, it becomes hamed. So we learn from there zois only by a male, but a female needs 3 different days. So you can't come with logic when the Torah clearly says v'zois. That this will only apply to a male, not a female. The Torah says by a male, it's how many times they see. So obviously, when it comes to a woman, it depends on the days. So you want to mind the high Maria is high. The word bezais is coming to exclude that by a woman. That if she sees 3 times in one day, she's not tamei more than just the next one day. Maybe he's coming to tell you that a zav will become tamei bezais only if he saw 3 times in the same day. But if a zav saw 3 different days, 3 consecutive days, maybe the zav is tired. That's what bezais is coming to tell you. That no, a zav, in fact, is just like a zav when it comes that if she saw 3 times in 3 different days or 3 times in the same day, she become tamei. What does the Torah say? Bezais to tell you that by a zav, by a male, the only time he becomes tamei is if he saw 3 times in the same day. If he saw 3 different days, it's not become tamei. On Makra, for that it says in the pasuk that when someone has an emission, it says la zocher and la keva, male or female makes no difference. In other words, they have the same dinim. So in one respect they have the same dinim, and one respect we say v'zois only applies to male. Mak is zocher keva. What way do we equate them? Man keva b'yamim, av zocher b'yamim. Just like in the keva, that what 3 different days by a male, also 3 different days. Why didn't that, if we're making already this equation, let's go one step further and say that in a cave is like a zocher. You said a zocher is like in a cave 3 different days. Let's now compare the converse, that in the cave, a woman is just like a male, that 3 times in the same day, she becomes a full-blown zocher. Ma zocher b'diyas, after cave b'diyas, a zocher sees 3 times in one day, so too a woman sees 3 times in one day. So it says, that there's a distinction between a male and female. So we have one inclusion and one exclusion. The inclusion is that a male 3 consecutive days becomes a full-blown zav. The exclusion is that if a woman sees 3 times on the same day, she does not become a full-blown zava. The Gemara has haino which one to include and which one to exclude. Why do you deem it that this should be the way we work? Mistabra makes sense. We're talking about sightings. That's what the pasuk is talking about. We're excluding something similar. But another person who saw 3 times in one day, it's not going to turn her into a full zava. That's why we exclude her. Or the koibiriyas and my yummy, you're going to tell me we're talking about over here. You want to say that while we're talking about three that are males see 3 times in one day, and you want to say that comes to exclude but 3 different days? No, it has to exclude something which is similar, which is riyas. The mayit yummy. Talking about okay. Talking about we learned ezahu mu'id. What's a mu'id? Kosh either by 3 different days, which follows the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The time, how do you revert back? How do you revert back? Sheyu hatanek is mashma vein legech that the children play with it doesn't. That's the view of Rameir. So Rabbi Yasi holds like Rabbi Yehuda to establish a mu'id, holds like Rameir to cancel that mu'id. Rab Shimon Aimer mu'id. You know what a mu'id is? Kosh either by pamim. And sorry, and 3 times, and I don't care when. When do we say 3 days? If you want to revert back, it has to be 3 different days, which is what Rabbi Yehuda says. In other words, Rabbi Shimon says, I follow Rabbi Meir that 3 times in one day establishes your mu'ud, but I follow Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to revert back to a tam, you need 3 different occasions. The halacha like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to mu'ud. Now what? Then you need 3 different times, 3 days. Rabbi Yasi agrees, and halacha Rabbi Meir betam when you want to revert, cancel the mu'ud and revert back to tam. The halacha Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Yasi agrees. Why do you say that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda? Because you like Rabbi Yasi. Didn't Rabbi Shimon in the Mishnah agree with Rabbi Meir that 3 times, even on the same day, you become mu'ud? So Rabbi Shimon made the why do you decide to follow this opinion? Rabbi Yasi, these are all colleagues. Why not them the other opinion? All students of Rabbi Kiva. The halacha Rabbi Yehuda betam. Rabbi Shimon made the Rabbi Shimon agrees. Amalei said to him, "Anok Rabbi Yasi you know why I follow Rabbi Yasi? Because we have a general rule. Rabbi Yasi nimuka imay. That justice is with him, a righteous is with him. The halacha is like." Okay, very simple discussion here about a mu'id. Okay, we had the machlekes Rashi and Taisus how to understand Rabbi whether it's the 3rd time or the 4th time. But here's a fascinating halacha. When it comes to Saint Talmud Levracha, or it comes to Masha Ruach Hamayla Geshem, so we talk about it takes 30 days of saying it 3 times before finally you can say I probably changed. So if you don't remember within the 30 days of changing, you don't remember what you said, we'll assume you said whatever you were used to saying prior. But after 30 days, we said you did this right thing. Comes along the Ram Rutelberger says, so if Shmini Atzeres, when you're supposed to change to Masha Baruch Hamayla Geshem, or the first day of Pesach, when you're supposed to change to Moed Latol, supposed to say Moed Latol, or at least not to say Masha Baruch. If 90 times you get up there and you say, you say 90 times, it's the same as saying it 30 days, and it works. And how do I know it works? From the one right here, because I may have said, when you mu'id 3 different days, you're a mu'id. Surely, when you do it all on the same day, like Kolshkein. So madach 30 days with you daven 3 times a day, and we say, okay, after 30 days you got used to it. Now you're in the habit of saying the new thing. So if you said it if you did it on one day, you did it 90 times. For sure, it's good. And if you don't, the following day you don't remember, okay. So, no, I just told you. Start from At to Gibber. Until Mechalkel Chaim. So those who say Moed Latol, you just say At Gibber and say Moed Latol in the summer. Those who don't say Moed Latol, you just say At Gibber and then you go straight into Mechalkel Chaim. That's it. That's what the thing. So and Rabbeinu Peretz, another Rishon, argued with Rambam Rutzberg, and he says no such thing. The Shalom HaKadosh asks, and the Taz, and the Mongaram, they don't understand this whole Rambam Rutzberg. The Gemara says that's Rameir's opinion. But what does Gemara we just learned right now? The halach is like who? Like Rabbi Yehuda that says that he doesn't believe in this logic. That Rabbi Yehuda says it has to be 3 different days. He says that the animal gored 3 times, it's just an aberration, it proves nothing. So what do you? How can you learn from Rabbi Meir halacha when halacha is not like Rabbi Meir? So the Taz remains with a question. He therefore doesn't understand how the Shulchan can pass in this way. The Magen Avraham tries to give a little bit of an answer, but it seems the logic is as follows. Rabbi Yehuda wouldn't argue in the case of preparing for davening, and why wouldn't he argue? The logic would seem as follows: when it comes to davening, you're trying to change your habit. Your habit was to say till now Masha Baruch, and now I'm going to try saying Moed Latol. I was used to saying now Moed Latol, and now I'm going to change to Masha Baruch. Because I am changing, I'm trying to create a new habit. Maybe if I say it consecutively in the same day, it's even better that my tongue is now used to saying whenever we say Ata Gibel Olam, automatically it'll say Masha Baruch or whatever the new thing is. In the case of muad, we're not changing the animal. We're saying this reveals to us that the animal all along was a muad, was always ready to gore, just never had the opportunity. So in this case, we're not creating new. We're trying to show that this is the habit. To show, says that if it happens too quickly next to each other, it's an aberration. You want to see the true personality. You have to see how they behave on a normal basis. So Yehuda says only 3 different days, but not if it's the same day. But in the case of saying 90 times, you're trying to change the way I speak, the way I daven. Okay, so that's the logic what we say here. However, this is very interesting. In Hilchot Rishon, we have the exact same thing. In Hilchot Rishon, if you practice to say Hamelech HaKadosh, the question is, you're supposed to say Hamelech HaKadosh, right? And then during one of the days of Tshuva, you can't remember. Say Hamelech HaKadosh. Generally speaking, you probably didn't. But if you said 90 times, Baruch Atah Hashem Hamelech HaKadosh, what happens then? So the same thing should be. But the Alter Rebbe says we don't want you to do that. Why not? Because you're going to be saying Hashem's name. Baruch Atah. And if you say Hashem, so the Magen Avraham says not to pass. If you're going to say Hashem, what happens then when you're going to really daven and say Hashem's name properly? You never got used to saying Hashem's name properly with Hamelech HaKadosh. You're used to saying Hamelech HaKadosh when you say the word Hashem. But when you spell out Hashem's name the way we say it during davening, you never practice that. So therefore, there's no practice. That's what the Alter Rebbe says, which makes it then a bit difficult to understand. So when you're practicing and they say start from Ata Gibor, you start from Ata Gibor, you say Hashem there. What's the difference? What's the difference? So one of the poskim, not the Alter Rebbe, but the Alter Rebbe clearly says you start from Ata Gibor. One of the poskim changes from Ata Gibor and jumps to Mechayim Esim. Start from Mechayim Esim after Rabbi Lashir. Clearly, the reason why they say that is because you don't want to say Hashem's name. You'll have the same problem. But Alter Rebbe says start from Ata Gibor, which means, and you have to, if you say Hashem, it's no good. That means you're saying Hashem's name properly. And then you have to think that for some reason or another, you're allowed to say in practice Ata Gibor La'olam and using Hashem's name the way we say it in davening, but you can't do it and say Baruch Atah Hashem. Now, Baruch Atah Hashem will be a bracha of Atollah, saying it 9 times. But saying Hashem's name and you're saying it for the reason in order to make sure that you don't make mistakes in the future sounds like you're allowed to. But that needs explanation. But that's what it seems to me. Fascinating, the Chaim Sefer. Chaim Sefer is Chuvas in Simon Chuvah Chaf in Orach Chaim. He says that it's not 30 day, which is 90. It's 101 times. The Moreh Chatiga says you cannot compare someone who learns 100 times to 101. It's that 101 time that makes you remember. And therefore, because that 101 time makes you remember, it's not 9, it's actually 101. And he makes a cheshbon because the first day of Pesach, you have Musaf every day of Pesach. So you add another 8 times that you say it. And then you have Rosh Chodesh. And then you have 3 Shabbosim for 30 days. Suddenly you have, instead of 90, you have 101. So therefore it's 101 times. But the fact is nobody says that in Shulchan Aruch it says 90, clearly. So Sefer says he's scared to argue with Shulchan Aruch, but that's what he would say. Just quickly we say you have to learn 101 times. My father used to say the word, what do you mean learn 101 times? What's so special about one time? So he said, it doesn't mean 101 times. It means you should learn May of Echad. May, when you learn the 100 times, Echad, always remember the one Eibishter. You're learning and you remember this is Teidas of the Eibishter. You remember. If you're learning it purely because it's Geschmack, it's not the same thing. Okay, let's continue. Says the Gemara, and you see here how everything is linked together. Says the Gemara further. Anybody who have a question? When we learn 3 days, what's the purpose of learning 3 days? Is it liyuda Torah? Is it to transform this animal and label it a wild animal, a mu'id? Or liyuda gavra? Or is it to prepare the owner that the owner should? Is it for the sake of the owner or the sake of the animal? Is it to establish the status of the animal, or is it to warn the owner? Okay, one time we had before, Palgan is Kanosa, we say, we want you to be a bit more careful because technically animals are not wild, but you should be more careful. And then eventually the owner, you got to take full responsibility. The Ma'inav community, what's the difference which one that is? What happens? The Asut Losa Kite Sadi Bechad. It happened 3 different days, like you just said, but you did not become aware of it on all 3 occasions on the same day. You, the owner. So it depends what the purpose of this warning is. Is it to establish the status of the animal? It happened 3 different times. Proves to us this animal is a mu'id. Doesn't matter that the Eidim all came to court on the same day. They may hide the mu'id. But if you can tell me no, that the main purpose is that to warn the person should be more careful, and the reason we need 3 different days so that he has time to prepare himself to get, to take it more seriously, then let me hide. If you heard all about it in the same day, why should he pay full amount? He'll say, now you tell me. all everything in one day. Yeah, what do you want me to do? My. So what would it then be? Especially the way Rashi learned before, that the third time you're already paying full on Nezek. He'll say, how do you even know? In fact, that's one of the problems that Tesis has with Rashi. It's not a question of, you told me on the same day. You want me to pay the full Nezek for the third time, but I didn't even know till after it happened. So what's going on here? Anyway, so that's what Taisa learned. It's the fourth time, but he still has an argument. You only give me one notice. I need three notices. Talks about coming here. Now we have a concept called Aiden Zayman. That means if somebody comes along and they come with testimony and they make up a story, and we say, how can you make up the story? You weren't even there at the time. They have to pay kashazamam lasas, whatever they intended to, how they intended to hurt that innocent person. That is what they have to do. But we can join together Eidim. For example, chazaka. 3 years is a chazaka. Somebody lived in a property, so you can have Eidim for year 1, Eidim separate Eidim for year 2, and third pair of Eidim for year 3. And they become like, since all three together, the aggregate of all three creates this new phenomena. Then the halach of Eidim Zaymin does not come in unless the full punishment, unless all three are mezumim. If only mazim one of them, you weren't mazim the full edis. Like you have two edim, you only mazim one of the edim. It's not hazam like you learn to bring a makas. So it says like this: Ein hashoy nasa muad. The shoy does not become a muad. But first of all, either way, you have to testify to the owner because he needs to know, and it has to be done from a bezin properly. And then the Bryce stressed that point. If you testify for a bezin without the violin, we know there are certain exceptions that you can testify in absentia. That the person that you're accusing, the defendant, is in absentia. The person is very, very sick, or the plaintiff. The person is very, very sick, or somebody is overseas, can't come. But in normal circumstances, they have to come. In fact, the machlekes are showing in normal circumstances, if it was an absentia, is it the psak din of the bezin a valid psak or not? Some want to say, of course not. He has to have the person there. Others say no, you couldn't work in absentia because once there are exceptions, then really that's the rule. Just we're machmir that we want the person there, but if it didn't work out, the din is still a din. Anyway, so it says here we need the bailim there. If they bailim, ushleiv the bezin ain't nasamur. She either by bezin they bailim. The Bryce stresses again because there are certain exceptions. There are no exceptions here. Okay. Whatever follows. Hey, do shnayim b'deshayna. Group A talked about the first animal. Vishniyah, Bishnayim, Bishniyah, and the group B talked about the second animal. Vishnayim, Bishniyah, and group 3. So each one came. We're going to learn like Rashi now. Each one, the first one came to say pay half the money, a tam. The second one's half the money, but the third one to pay the full amount. How they can show us 3 different groups. Behind Eidus Achas lahazama. But as far as Hazama is concerned, it's one group. What happened in Miskas Kata showing them? The first group was a liar. That means the other two damages happened, but the first thing never happened because they weren't around. Okay. He can't stay 80s. So now suddenly you have left only 2 80s. But who part of him to him? He doesn't have to, the owner of the animal doesn't have to pay for the first time. He doesn't have to pay for the first time because it never happened. And the Eidim Zayim do have to pay for the first time. The owner does not have to pay for the third time the full nezik because it's only a half a nezik. It's only a tam now because it's really the second time. And therefore, the other two groups don't have to pay any penalties. Okay. Even though when they came to court, it looked like they were trying to make him a muad, but it turned out to be he never was because the first time never happened. Nimtaz Kachni is a memes, same thing. The second group was a Zed memes. So let's say the first group are lies, first two. Hadakadet is Achad again, still 1 Adis. But who part of a Haimtun again? He doesn't have to pay for the first and second. The Eidim have to pay. He has to pay for the third, but not the full nezik. Pay only half a nezik, and they don't have to pay for the other half a nezik they tried to do because they never tried to do because it turned out because the third group didn't do anything wrong. They just came along and said it gored, and it was a time. Nimtaz catch them, and now all 3 of them were found to be liars. That means they all 3 tried to make this guy pay the third, for the third time a full nezik. Kul and chayavin. They all 3 groups have to chip in together. Not each one pays for their own lie, but then the third one is an extra half a nezik, right? They wanted to make it a muad. So all 3 groups have to divide the payment of the third nezik. Now, the question is as follows. If you say that the whole purpose is that we need 3 days to turn the status of this animal, but as far as the person is concerned, he can find out everything in the same day. And then shop it makes sense. What do you make sense? It makes sense that all 3 groups of witnesses were aware of each other because they all came to court at the same time. So therefore, they all really tried to make a muad because they all came to court hand in hand. So therefore, it makes sense. If you can tell me that you have to warn the person, which means that each group of Adam came a different day, then what are you telling me that they all tried to make it a muad? You're telling me that the first group has to contribute to the third animal's second half of the muad. But why? The first group will say, I came in on Monday. We were the first animal. We had no idea that there was another group coming in on Tuesday or another group coming in on Wednesday. So therefore, why should we pay? We never wanted to make a muad. All we want is to make it pay a tam. So we're guilty. We'll pay for the tam. But the only way to understand this l'chayt is when all three groups came in together, so we know that they know each other and that they're in cahoots. So all three try to make him pay for the muad. That can only work if you say that the purpose of their edus is to transform the animal into a muad, not to warn the balabas. I repeated this Rav Kana. It's not the same Rav Kana that we have who's a student of Rav, and we had two Rav Kanas, as Taisha told us in Kedushin. But he told me, and let's say is coming. Let's say you're coming here to transform the animal from a tam to muad. Is any better? Let the last group say. We knew that there were other people there. So you think we saw people coming to Bezin, but we came here to talk about a tam. Did we know that those other people were going to say that they, on Monday and on Tuesday, they all came together on Wednesday? But we didn't know about the first two people. We just thought that we're coming in to talk about a tam. You think we knew that they're going to talk about to say that they did he damaged on Monday, damaged on Tuesday, and turned to be all liars? And if we never came intention to make this animal muad. We only knew about this particular case. Says the Gemara. We only came here to talk about the third animal on its own in isolation. That's a tam. The Gemara says no. The Kamarams and the Muzi. We saw them winking at each other. We saw that these three groups were not just three separate groups, even though they all came together on Wednesday and each one was talking about a different day and a different event. We saw that they were in cahoots. So therefore, the third group is just as guilty as they are to try to make him pay for a muad. The Rashi says Kishabod and Sufim. The Rashi said they all came together. Not that the fact that they all came together already tells us that they were in cahoots. Sure. Says the Gemara. So therefore, as far as if we learn that it's coming to define the status of the animal, it makes sense as Bryce said. But if you're telling me that it's coming to warn the balabas, it doesn't make sense because each one had to come a different day. So the guy who came the first day can say, I never knew about these other people who are coming that it happened the following day. They didn't know. The Gemara, Ravina said the makidin balashoy, the ein makidin zashoy. They know the owner of the shoy, but they don't know the shoy itself. So therefore, if the din by a tam is that you have to pay from the animal itself. If the third group did not know which animal it is, what are you coming for? Because they want to tell the balabot, but you now have an animal in your stock that is a muad. You have an animal that is a muad, and the muad, we don't care with the value of the animal that caused the damage. You are totally responsible. So therefore, it's not that vital for the agent to know which animal it is. It must be that you came here to talk to us about a muad. So that's why if it comes to you, no problem that you have three groups of eight, and the third group say, "Oh, I didn't know about the other two." Yes, you did, because you didn't know which animal it is. So what are you coming for? You're coming to say to the balabas, some muad, you got to pay from your own pocket. Doesn't matter which animal it is. We don't have to assess the value of the animal. So it's clear that you came here to talk about a muad. Says the Gemara, so what's the warning? If you don't know which animal it is, what are you telling the guy? Which animal should you be careful with? The Amar, because he said it in one answer, he said, you should know you have in your midst of your flock and your cattle, you have an animal that's a gorer, an established gorer. You boil into the kula bakra. Since you don't know which one it is, you got to mind every single one properly. We have a question. We don't answer the question, so it sounds like from the Gemara that it's liyuda toida. The main purpose of these three is that they should transform the animal from a tam to muad, and therefore the witnesses can all come on the same day, make an appearance on the same day. Talking about it further, I have a question. If I incite the dog of my friend, says Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven owns a dog. Shimon is a bystander there, and Levi incites the dog to bite Shimon. Yesterday we talked about it in the mouth of the dog, whose possession is it. Mao. The insider is potter because even though he did a terrible thing, it's cruel. He is an insider, but insider, in our courts, you don't pay. It's a groma. We have groma garmi. This is like indirect groma. So the dog did the biting. The question is about kel of mine. What about the owner of the dog? At the end of the day, the owner of the dog did the biting. It caused the damage, caused the wound. Does he have to pay or not? Mi amrina. Do we say Motzi Amale? He can say, I know I my avinale. What did I do? What did I do? This guy came inside my animal. What did I do? I did amrinale. We say kivan the adat. You knew the kalbach, your dog. The mishasale umishatse. You knew that your animal can be incited. If people tease your animal, it gets has a temper or something. Like you shouldn't keep it in your house. We had before already. You're not allowed to keep a terrible ladder in your house. You're not allowed to keep a killer around your house. So this falls on the same umbrella. You shouldn't have kept this animal in your house. And the fact that you kept it and you didn't guard it properly, you're responsible. That's the question. Is the owner of the dog responsible or not? Liable or not? Yeah, Rav said, Tosh coming in. The time, and our mission said, the time, how do you revert back to the time? If the kids are playing around with it, and doesn't bother them, doesn't gore them. But sound like, but what happened if the animal did gore them? Then by the kids playing around, I mean the kids are inciting the animal, and the animal goes ahead and gores somebody. The owner of the animal would be chayiv. So it's clear that the owner of the animal is liable. I'm going to buy you. Abai says you made an inference which is incorrect, and then you go learn halachas. Me kitani noga chayiv. Does it say anywhere here that if the animal did gore, you're chayiv? No. All the mission is trying to say is if the animal gored, it does not revert back to a tam. That's all it says. But who said the animal's chayiv? If the reason why the animal caused the damage is because it was incited, it's not the owner's fault. Doesn't become a tam. But who says the owner of the animal is chayiv? Proves nothing, neither way. So come in here. Let's say you rexed you antagonized, or you incited this dog. You incited the snake to go ahead and bite someone. Potter, you are potter. My love, what does it mean? Potter, mishasa. It seems who's potter? It doesn't say Peturin. If both of them would be potter, the insider and the owner would say in Lashon Rabbi, Peturin. By saying potter sounds like only one person is potter. And we know from before that who the insider is potter because it's not his fault. It's indirect. So obviously then, the other person, v'chayev ba'al kelim. He's chayiv. And we're like, no, aim of potter, af mishasa. They are both potter. In singular, the ba'al kelim surely is potter. It wasn't even there. You tease the dog. Why should he be responsible? But also, the teaser is potter. That's the chiddush. If you analyze it, you can say, if I go ahead and tease your dog and I cause your dog to go ahead and bite somebody, chayev. I am chayev. If you want to say that, if you want to say that in this case, you are chayev. What about shiseyahu ba'atzmai? What about the person who teases the one that got bitten? What happens then? If you're going to say that the balabas is chayev, let's say, for argument's sake, you had a question. Let's say, for argument's sake, if your animal was teased and your animal went and bit somebody, you're responsible. At the end of the day, it's your animal. And you should be more careful. Okay. What about the person that teased the animal or decided the animal was the one that got hurt? What happens then? What's the timer? My timer. Sorry, I say potter. But then is that what? In that case, you are potter. Why? My timer. Why should be potter? What's the difference? A stranger or the guy? Because kol hamishana. If you behave in an abnormal way, and then as a result of that, the animal behaves in an abnormal way, potter. You are potter. So you behave. You tease the animal. And therefore, the animal then bit you, which is not normal. The balabas of the animal is potter. It seems that we had it before already, learns just like you that if one person behaves abnormally, then another one, if one thing or animal, for example, there are two cows, two oxen. One cow is lying, one ox is lying on the ground, which has no right to. That's weird. And the other one is doing about his normal business. Comes along, the animal's walking, gives a kick, gives a cup of the zetz, the one who's lying down. Now, the one who's lying down is doing a shini. The one who gave a zetz is also, it's not normal, it's not regal, it's a zetz, but this is keren. But because the shini of the cow walking is a response to a shini of an animal lying down, the owner of the cow is potter. You are potter. But if the animal lying down gives a kick, the animal's walking, since the animal's walking, doing the normal thing, not a shini, the animal lying down is the one who's doing a shini, it gives a kick to this cat and you're chayiv. So it proves your point that shini and a shini, you're potter. On Malay, so Rabbi says, look, I would say, I don't agree with Shlokish in that case. I actually would say that if the animal walking gives a kick, the animal lying down, there's no excuse. True, the animal lying down has no right to. And if you're walking, you fall over it, whatever, the animal will be responsible. But you gave a kick, just because that guy, two wrongs don't make a right. Just because that animal is lying down doesn't give you the right to give it a kick. I mean, like, so there's good your life. You had a right to walk on top, trample on top of the animal lying down. Or the lebu to be, but the animal's talking now. To kick me, less lefrishus. What permission do you have? Says the Mishnah, we already had this concept. If the shoyr hamazik trespasses and does like a tam, behaves erratically, do you still pay chatzi nezik, which is what we learned the Chacham say, or a Tarfa says in this case you pay nezik shalom? Says the Mishnah. For example, Nogach gored, Nogach shoved with his body, Nashar gave a bite, not for pleasure, but just to destroy. Ravatz threw himself on things, Boad gave a kick. Bishus Rabbi, and that's Keren in all of these cases, because your intention is to cause damage, Mishal, and no pleasure from it, and it's not a normal behavior in Mishal and Chatzinezik. But Bishus Hanizik, what happened? You did it and you trespassed. The Tarfin says, Nezek you pay the full amount. And the Chacham say Chatzinezik, it's still Keren, you pay half a Nezik. On the Tarfin, I'll make a Kabul Chayman. The Chayde Keren is more stringent than Shem V'Regel. How I know? Madach in a place where you're very lenient when it comes to Shem V'Regel. In a public space, if the animal is eating, you don't pay. And yet, but in a shus nizik in a private domain where you're trespassing, you make the animal pay shalom. Imagine Keren, which is so strict that even in a public place you're paying half a nezik. Surely, in the place of the nizik you're trespassing, surely it should be equal to Shem Regel, and you should pay another shalom. Malkum shehechmer lekeren b'shusarabim. L'shalom chazinezik. Ain't surely should nachmer all of b'shusarabim. L'shalom you should pay another shalom. They told him the famous words. When you have a kal v'chayim, when you have a light thing and you have a certain law, and you have a stricter thing, you want to learn from the lighter thing, fine, you're right. But you cannot add to the stricter another level which he doesn't have by the lighter. You're learning keren in trespassing from a keren shusarabim. But how much does the keren shusarabim pay at the end of the day? Half a nezik. So keren in nezik surely has to pay, but you can't pay more than what you're learning from. And we already had a Tarfon, he agrees to that principle only where that undermines the entire Kal V'Chaymer. Otherwise, over here, if you're going to tell me that Da'ilom and I don't need a Kal V'Chaymer to tell me that Keren pays half a nezik in Shusani. Why shouldn't he? If Shem Regel pays there, of course you pay here. Well, why shouldn't you pay? So the only purpose of this Kal V'Chaymer is to teach me that you step up from a Chatzi nezik to a Shalom. So therefore, the Tarfon says in that case you don't say Da'yoy, because otherwise there's no Kal V'Chaymer. The Rabbanan say you always say Da'yoy. So the Gemara. What do you pay half a nezik? Amalei said to them, okay, you think I'm learning from Keren in Shus Rabim. I'm learning from Shem V'Regel. I'm not learning Keren from Keren. I'm going to learn Keren and trespassing from Regel and from trespassing. Let's focus on the Shem V'Regel. Shem V'Regel is exempt in a public place. You're in a private place. And sorry, Hechmer Bekeren, but there, Keren is stricter, which tells me that Keren is stricter than Shem V'Regel. So in a private place was trespassing, and Shem V'Regel pays the full amount. B'shus HaNizik, in a domain of a Nizik, Ein Adin Shenachman Bekeren. So surely Keren should pay like Shem V'Regel. Amrullah, they said to him, at the end of the day, the only reason why Keren is stricter than Shem Regel is because in the Shus Rabim, Keren you pay and you don't pay Shem Regel. So ultimately, what is the benchmark here? Keren Shus Rabim.